You are all about to embark on a journey, an unexpected experience that can only be described with one phrase.
Duro! Monster Cardo! Duro! Monster Cardo! Duro! Monster Cardo!
Welcome everyone to a game that I've recently learned about called Monster Hunter Spirits. Probably the least known Monster Hunter spin-off game, and honestly the one that has the absolute least available information about it on the internet as well, even if you find out that it even exists in the first place. Everything in the background is official Capcom trailers or things uploaded by the Capcom channel because, well, I can't really find anything in English, at least that even confirms that this machine ever wound up sold to a public arcade, but I really do assume that it was. Yeah, you did hear me right. This game is actually a full-on arcade machine. It's sort of awesome to see Monster Hunter done in that format, but hold on, you may be getting the wrong impression here because remember when I told you that phrase to describe the journey? Yeah, it's also a card game. A card game arcade machine. A Monster Hunter card game that you play on an arcade machine with action combat mechanics. It isn't just a card game in the way that it's presented in game, though you actually need to have a physical collection of cards that you could then scan on the machine in order to take part in the battles. Right now, you may be a bit confused. I know I'm confused. This game almost feels like a weird dream that I had one time and then woke up and thought, how did I come up with that? But I didn't. Someone else did. It's a Monster Hunter game that you play on an arcade machine using physical cards to scan in, then enter turn-based combat with your opponent that involves a skillful movement and timing with the big old joystick in the middle as well as a lot of button smacking, almost like a low-level fighting game. I'll be real with you, my first thought when I saw this game, all I could think was somebody wanted to make some goddamn money. Arcade machines require money to use. Cards require money to collect. Monster Hunter is pretty damn popular in Japan, and there's an established arcade gaming culture there as well. When you put this all together, it almost seems like it was destined for some sort of success, as even being in a specific niche the way that it is of overlapping so many concepts, the people who would enjoy this game would absolutely love it in theory. That said, the same thing that makes it so strong for its niche audience also may have been what sealed it in the time of capsule of obscurity it has been lost to. Or so it may seem. Monster Hunter Spirits has, of this point, pretty much died, but you may want to have a look at the company who created the game, as shown at the beginning of the trailer. Does the name seem familiar? It may not seem so to everyone here, but it may mean something to any person who has played a certain Monster Hunter spin-off series by the name of Monster Hunter Stories, created by Marvelous Inc., who are also the creators of Monster Hunter Spirits, the card-collecting turn-based arcade game. It makes a lot of sense when you see the aesthetic similarities, and knowing the timeline of this makes it pretty clear that Monster Hunter Spirits essentially became Monster Hunter Stories. Spirits had its announcement trailer in 2015, Stories was released in 2016, which then of course became Stories 2, which is now a wildly popular game both among fans of the main series Monster Hunter games and a somewhat larger community as well due to the uniqueness of the game and how good it is from a creature collecting genre perspective. The more that you compare the two of these games, the more it makes a lot of sense. Spirits was all about the concept that pretty much any monster you could fight, you could collect and then use on your side if you got the card. Stories is all about the beauty of being able to capture and collect just about every monster you can go against in the game too. It really digs into the lovable creatures that we fight against in the main series and gives you an excuse to just love them as basically pets, to collect them like cards or like creatures. It's just Nintendogs with more game mechanics, not necessarily better game mechanics, but more game mechanics. Nintendogs was a fucking masterpiece and I won't hear anything to the contrary. If you need more convincing that this game became Monster Hunter Stories though, maybe have a good fine look at some of these cards that happen to contain a certain stage of life of the various monsters. Babies. Baby monsters. Like, oh, you know, when they come fresh out of an egg. Nothing will ever make me say no to baby monster art in any form. There is something so wholesome about taking a deadly creature that we generally see in the main series as a threat and not really anything else, and just putting it in a tiny, helpless form that needs protecting. I want to protect them all. Genuinely, even now, I sort of want to see if I can find a couple of these cards somehow, because even though Monster Hunter Spirits did become Stories, it did still exist in its own right to the point of playability that there was at least least one working machine. I don't even know how much existed past that. We have tons of gameplay from Capcom themselves, but even the website itself for the game shut down in 2017, so you can't even click on the button that tells you the locations that have the arcade machine. That said, there are cards out there of baby monsters, and I want them. All of this information together makes it clear to me that this is definitely the best course of action that could have happened, really, at least for us, the Monster Hunter player. Think about how much you get out of a Monster Hunter Stories game, all for a flat, relatively low price. Imagine an experience on an arcade machine that you have to pay to play every time, with cards that you need to collect to use. The comparison of the price, at least, is not very friendly. It is an awesome concept, and the gameplay actually looks pretty neat and extremely unique, but it's a game that would have simply asked too much of its players. The fact that it turned into Monster Hunter Stories and then eventually Monster Hunter Stories 2 has resulted in another example of an extremely unique game that is generally beloved by its players. Where Stories 1 was a really fun and interesting game, Stories 2 expanded significantly on a lot of the ideas inside. It brought in far deeper mechanics, and with some of these mechanics you can see more of the tiebacks to Monster Hunter Spirits, the way you would use the joystick to input hunter combos, the way that you might spam a button to charge an attack, these ways of trying to change a turn-based combat system to make it feel like it has more of an action pacing. All in all, don't get me wrong, if I had my own personal Monster Hunter Spirits machine and a deck of cards, I would be in love with this game. I would sit on it for hours at a time, probably every damn day. But what a goddamn investment this game would be. You know, it's not like it's something that you can get relatively cheap. It's not a portable console that you can take with you in a car or on a train. It's not even really a home console unless you happen to be particularly well off enough to buy an arcade machine for a singular game. Everything about this game sounds amazing to me except the associated price tags of being someone who plays it. And so if I were to make my own assumptions about what happened to Spirits, it's exactly that. It's a card collecting arcade machine game that existed and then became a little bit of a myth, a legend that completely conceptualized the basis of Monster Hunter Stories. This all started from finding a single trailer about this game and being just so absolutely flabbergasted by what I was looking at and following down this rabbit hole of what was going on here to find a really nice piece of information about the Monster Hunter series that you might just not know unless you were a diehard fan in 2015. And it led to an extremely popular spin-off series for Monster Hunter. What a journey this was for me, and I hope you guys had a good time too. I've been Cotton Dinosaur, and this has been a discussion about Monster Hunter Spirits, one of the most interesting game concepts that I have ever heard of that wound up turning into Monster Hunter Stories. Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.